He thought it was just another woman, another nobody he could humiliate and forget, but the moment his hand struck her face, he unknowingly declared war on a man who would dismantle his entire world, piece by piece. The hospital corridor fell silent the second the sound echoed. Nurses froze. Patients turned. And she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply held her cheek, her other hand protectively resting on her swollen belly, her eyes filled not with fear, but something far more dangerous, quiet strength. Ayan Malik, the city's most arrogant billionaire, adjusted his cufflinks as if nothing had happened. "Next time," he said coldly, "learn who you're speaking to before you open your mouth." The pregnant nurse, Zara, looked at him, not with submission, but with a calm dignity that unsettled even him for a brief second. "And maybe you," she replied softly, "should learn that money doesn't make you untouchable." Ayan smirked and walked away, his expensive shoes clicking against the polished floor, leaving behind whispers, outrage, and a storm he couldn't yet see. Zara stood still, breathing slowly. She had been insulted before. Life hadn't been easy. Losing her parents young, raising herself, working tirelessly through medical school, she had endured pain far worse than a slap. But this wasn't just about her anymore. Her hand tightened over her belly. For her child, she would not let this pass. That night, sitting in her small apartment, she hesitated before picking up her phone. She hadn't spoken to her brother in years, not because she didn't love him, but because she wanted to prove she could stand on her own. But tonight, things were different. When the call connected, there was silence for a moment before a deep, controlled voice answered, "Zara?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Bye." Miles away, in a high-security office surrounded by armed guards, her brother's expression darkened. He was not just anyone. He was a man whose name carried power in places Ayan's wealth could never reach. And when Zara told him what had happened, the silence on the other end became terrifying. "Stay where you are," he said quietly. "I'm coming." Meanwhile, Ayan returned to his luxurious penthouse, pouring himself a drink, completely unbothered. To him, Zara was already forgotten, a minor inconvenience in a day filled with bigger deals and bigger egos. But fate has a cruel way of humbling those who believe they are above consequence. The next morning, everything began to change. His company shares started dropping unexpectedly. Meetings were cancelled. Partners grew distant. Within hours, the empire he had built with pride began to crack, not from the outside, but from within. Confused and furious, Ayan demanded answers. But no one could give him one. No one dared to say the truth. Until a black car stopped outside his office. And stepping out of it, was the man who had come to collect a debt Ayan didn't even know he owed. He thought power meant control, but he was about to learn what real power looked like when it came for him. Ayan had faced competitors, enemies, and betrayals before, but nothing prepared him for the quiet, terrifying presence of the man who walked into his office that day, carrying not just authority, but a promise of reckoning. The door closed behind him with a soft click. No guards. No noise. Just silence that pressed heavily against Ayan's chest. "Sit," the man said calmly. For the first time in years, Ayan obeyed without thinking. "Do you remember yesterday?" the man asked. Ayan frowned, trying to maintain his composure. "I deal with hundreds of things daily. Be specific." The man stepped closer, his eyes cold but controlled. "A hospital. A nurse. A slap." And just like that, it hit him. "Zara." Before Ayan could respond, the man placed a file on the table. Inside were documents, contracts cancelled, accounts frozen, partnerships withdrawn. Every page told the same story: Ayan Malik was falling. "You built your empire on fear," the man continued. "But you made one mistake. You touched someone you shouldn't have." Ayan clenched his jaw. "And who exactly are you?" The man leaned slightly forward, his voice lowering. I'm the man who will make sure you never forget her name again. The realization dawned slowly, then all at once. Zara wasn't alone. And for the first time, Ayan felt something unfamiliar, fear. But what shocked him more wasn't the revenge, it was what came next. I'm not here to destroy you, the man said. Not yet. I'm here to give you a choice. Ayan looked up, confused. You will go to her, he said firmly. You will apologize. Not as a billionaire. Not as a powerful man. But as someone who finally understands what he's done. And if I refuse? Ayan challenged. The man smiled faintly, a dangerous, knowing smile. Then everything you've ever built disappears by sunrise. For a long moment, Ayan said nothing. His pride screamed at him to resist. To fight. To refuse. But deep inside, something else stirred. A memory. A version of himself he had buried long ago, before money, before arrogance, before he forgot what it meant to be human. That evening, he stood outside Zara's modest home, his heart heavier than it had ever been. When she opened the door, surprise flickered in her eyes, but she didn't step back. For the first time, Ayan couldn't meet someone's gaze. I came to say, he paused, struggling with words he had never spoken sincerely before, I was wrong. Silence filled the space between them. I don't expect forgiveness, he continued, his voice softer now. But I needed to say it. Zara studied him carefully. This wasn't the man from yesterday. The arrogance was gone, or at least, broken. Do you know what hurt the most? She asked quietly. Ayan shook his head. It wasn't the slap, she said. It was the way you smiled, like I didn't matter. Her words hit harder than anything else. For the first time, Ayan truly saw her, not as a stranger, not as someone beneath him, but as a person. Strong. Resilient. Carrying life within her. I'm sorry, he said again, and this time, he meant it. Days passed. Something changed in him after that night. Not instantly. Not perfectly. But slowly, the man who once ruled through arrogance began to rebuild himself through humility. He started visiting the hospital, not as an owner, but as a donor, a supporter. Quietly helping those in need. Learning names. Listening to stories. And somewhere along the way, he found himself drawn to Zara again. Not out of guilt. But respect. And something deeper he didn't expect, love. Zara didn't forgive him easily. She didn't trust him quickly. But she saw his efforts, his consistency, his change. And over time, walls softened. Because sometimes, the strongest love stories aren't born from perfection, but from redemption. Ayan lost his arrogance, but found something far more valuable. A second chance. And in the end, he realized a truth no amount of money could ever buy. Respect is earned. Kindness is remembered. And one moment of cruelty can change your life, but one moment of humility can change it back. That he thought apologizing would fix everything, but he was about to learn that earning forgiveness is far harder than asking for it, and sometimes, love only begins after you've lost the right to it. Ayan stood outside the hospital once again, but this time, the man who once walked in with arrogance now carried something unfamiliar, nervousness. His hands, once steady in billion-dollar deals, felt uncertain as he stepped inside. Zara had returned to work despite everything. Life didn't pause for her pain. It never had. When she saw him walking toward her in the corridor, her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. You've said your apology, she said calmly. Why are you here again? Ayan took a breath. Because I meant it, and because I know words aren't enough. She crossed her arms slightly, protective, cautious. And what exactly do you think will be enough? I don't know yet, he admitted honestly. But I'm willing to find out. Zara studied him in silence. People didn't change overnight. Especially not men like him. But there was something different, something quieter in the way he spoke, something real in the way he didn't try to dominate the moment. Then start by understanding this, she said. I'm not someone you can win over like a business deal. I know, he replied softly. That's why I'm not here to win. I'm here to earn. Days turned into weeks. Ayan kept showing up, not for her, but for the hospital. He funded new equipment anonymously, improved patient care systems, and made sure no one working there felt invisible again. He never mentioned it to Zara. He didn't even try to talk to her unless she approached him first. But she noticed. One evening, after a long shift, Zara sat alone in the break room, exhaustion written all over her face. Her pregnancy was getting harder. The long hours, the emotional strain, it was all catching up to her. Ayan happened to pass by and paused when he saw her. For a moment, he hesitated. The old him would have walked away, uninterested. But now. Have you eaten? He asked gently. Zara looked up, surprised by the question. That's none of your concern. He nodded. You're right. But it should be. Before she could respond, he placed a small bag on the table. It's just food. Nothing more. Then he left. Zara stared at the bag for a long moment before opening it. Simple, healthy food. Nothing extravagant. Nothing showy. Just thoughtful. And for reasons she couldn't explain, that affected her more than his apology ever had. Meanwhile, Ayan's world continued to shift. The same people who once feared him now respected him. Not because of his power, but because of his change. And yet, the one person whose opinion mattered most remained distant. Until the night everything changed again. It was raining heavily when Zara was rushed into the emergency room, not as a nurse, but as a patient. Complications. Her condition worsened rapidly, and panic spread through the hospital. Ayan arrived within minutes of hearing the news. The moment he saw her on the stretcher, pale and in pain, something inside him broke. For the first time in his life, money meant nothing. Power meant nothing. All he could do was wait. Hours felt like years. When the doctor finally stepped out, Ayan rushed forward. Is she okay? The baby is safe, the doctor said, but she needs rest and care. Stress is dangerous for her condition. Relief flooded through him, but it was followed by something deeper, fear of losing her. When he was finally allowed to see her, Zara looked weak, but conscious. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. And leave, he said quietly. I'm not that man anymore. She looked at him, really looked this time. Not at the billionaire. Not at the man who hurt her. But at the man who stayed. Why? She asked, her voice fragile. Why are you doing all this? Ayan moved closer, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Because that day, when I hurt you, I saw the worst version of myself. He paused. And when I came back to apologize, I saw the strongest version of you. Zara's eyes softened slightly. I don't want to be that man again, he continued. And somewhere along the way, I realized it's not just about fixing my mistake. He hesitated, then said the words that had been building inside him for weeks. It's about you. Silence filled the room. I don't expect anything from you, he added quickly. Not forgiveness. Not trust. Not even a place in your life. Then what do you want? She asked quietly. Ayan smiled faintly. Just a chance, to stand beside you, not above you. Tears welled in Zara's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Do you even understand what you're asking? She whispered. This isn't a story where everything magically becomes perfect. I know, he said. That's why I'm still here. Days passed. Recovery wasn't easy, but Zara wasn't alone anymore. Ayan stayed through every appointment, every moment of fear, every quiet silence. Not as a savior, but as someone who had finally learned how to care. And slowly, something began to grow between them. Not forced. Not rushed. But real. The day her child was born, Ayan stood outside the room, his heart racing. He had no right to be there, but he couldn't leave. When the nurse finally came out and said, "You can come in," his breath caught. Inside, Zara held her baby, her face glowing with a strength that left him in awe. She looked up at him and, for the first time, smiled. Not fully. But enough. "Do you want to meet her?" she asked softly. Ayan stepped forward, his eyes filled with something he had never known before. As he held the child, something inside him healed completely. Because in that moment, he understood. Life doesn't give you second chances easily. But when it does, it gives you the choice to become someone better. And sometimes, the man who once caused pain becomes the one who protects, cherishes, and loves the most. Not because he was perfect, but because he chose to change. And that made all the difference.